I'm Steve Jobs.
You'll be surprised by some of the stuff you find on YouTube.
More powerful, more intelligent.
Technology in your pocket, in your pocket.
In 2014, a young woman named Belle Gibson became Apple's sweetheart. She was touted by the Silicon Valley giant as the picture of wellness. She had a thriving app and hundreds of thousands of followers online. Why? Because she beat cancer holistically. Or so she said. But to know Belle is to really not know her at all. You see, this is Belle. This is Belle. And this is Belle. She built $1 million business off her Cinderella story, and she was one of the first successful influencers to do it on social media. But to draw people in, it's not enough to just post pretty selfies, delicious food photos, or have a visually pleasing Instagram aesthetic. After all, wellness is a big business. From 2013 to 2015, the global wellness sector grew from $3.36 trillion to $3.72 trillion. Today, the wellness industry is worth $4.2 trillion and represents 5.1% of global economic output. It includes personal care and beauty, healthy eating and weight loss, spiritual wellness, and more. So if you want to join the wellness industry and make a buck like Belle, how are you going to do it? Well, you need to stand out. And to stand out, you need to be able to draw people in with a compelling story that tugs on people's heartstrings. A story that says, hey, I know you're going through a hard time, I am too, and we can be on this journey together. But if you're too much like the people you're speaking to, you won't stand out. You need to be a guru and set yourself above the rest. How do you do that? By claiming to have a cure for the people who are suffering just like you were. Then you sell your magical cure to the masses. And don't forget to use your call to action at the end of every post. Now you're looked at as not only heroic, but a healer. This is exactly what Belle Gibson did to cancer survivors, Silicon Valley, and Penguin Random House Publishing Group, all before being caught by Australian authorities. And there's still so much more she's done since her scandal broke several years ago. All that and more is covered in this documentary. So sit back and relax, because this is the story of Belle Gibson, the wellness guru whose fairy tale was nothing more than a tale of deception. Belle had one brother and was raised by a single mother with multiple sclerosis. Belle's mother confirmed Belle had a heart condition, and it seemed Belle's childhood was chaotic. Belle and her brother had a stepfather who was in and out of their lives, and the family moved several times, and at the age of 12, Belle moved out of the family home and in with a classmate. After that, Belle's mother and brother reported she moved in with a friend she made while in primary school, a man in his 60s. Belle moved in with him her freshman year of high school, and by her sophomore year, Belle had dropped out of high school completely. It was during this time Belle became active in an online skateboarding forum. But Belle didn't talk much about a shared love of skateboarding. Instead, she often told her friends of her health struggles, claiming that she had had surgery and went into cardiac arrest, died twice on the operating table, and then was brought back to life. Belle worked as a trainee for a catering supply company in Perth in 2008, and by 2010, Belle moved to Melbourne and gave birth to a baby boy at the age of 18. Soon after, Belle became knowledgeable with computers, programming, and studied web development. By 2013, Belle created an Instagram account titled Healing Belle. And it was there, while posting pretty food pictures and selfies, Belle told a story of how in 2010 she had been diagnosed with inoperable malignant brain cancer and given just 6 weeks to 4 months to live. Belle claimed her diagnosis came after she had already survived a terrible childhood where she took care of her mother from the age of 5 and had a brother with autism. Belle told her new followers she had no toys as a child and was expected to run the house. Belle claimed that besides her son, she was all alone in the world, as her mother wasn't able to handle hearing about her cancer diagnosis, and the two had become estranged. Belle's Instagram account grew rapidly, and she told her followers that after being diagnosed with inoperable brain cancer, she did traditional cancer treatments like chemotherapy and radiotherapy. But she claimed neither worked and the side effects were severe, so she began exploring alternative ways to treat her cancer, which took her down a path of cutting out all meat, dairy, gluten, preservatives of any kind, GMOs, and sugar from her diet. She claimed vitamin and Ayurvedic treatments, along with oxygen therapy, were part of her treatment. And because of these alternative treatments, Belle claimed she was cancer-free, which was what prompted her to make her Instagram account. Belle wanted to offer help and advice and share with the world how she had healed herself. Belle's success happened quickly, and she soon built a following of 179,000 followers. Unlike today, where influencers are a dime a dozen and standing out on social media can be difficult, Belle was seen as a trendsetter and an icon in the health and wellness space at the time. And it was in 2013 that Belle got a man named Alex, who she met through mutual friends in Melbourne, to become her co-developer, and together they created the Whole Pantry, which was marketed as the world's first lifestyle app and cost $3.79. The Whole Pantry app claimed to offer empowering information, lifestyle guides, and simple yet beautiful nourishing recipes. In its first month, it was downloaded around 200,000 times, bringing in over $750,000. Due to its popularity, the Whole Pantry app became Apple's best food and drink app of 2013. This caught Apple's attention, and seeing how marketable Belle and her inspirational story were, as well as the success of the Whole Pantry app, Apple honed in on Belle and invited her to work on a super secret project, something that would be released within the next year but hadn't yet been named. Some people suspected it would be a device called the iWatch. We know it today as the Apple Watch. Apple told Belle they wanted to fly her out to their headquarters in California to work on further development of their app. And then they told her the big news. Belle's Whole Pantry app would be one of the only apps to come pre-programmed on the Apple Watch. Apple also told Belle they wanted her to be there when they debuted the Apple Watch for the first time in front of the world, where Belle's app would be displayed on a screen in front of everyone in attendance. Belle said yes to the planned event that would be held in summer of 2014 and continued sharing recipes, selfies, talking about health, and even being a shoulder to cry on for other men and women who were battling cancer or had loved ones doing the same. Apple has been known since its inception in 1976 for taking an interest in healthcare and providing accessibility to computing for all, including people with visual and hearing impairments, as well as other disabilities. The Whole Pantry app claimed to persuade people to live better, healthier lives by improving their diet, taking care of their bodies, and offering advice on yoga and holistic medicine. At the time, some were surprised by Apple's interest in the health app, but others weren't, as Apple's co-founder, Steve Jobs, delayed conventional treatment for 9 months after he was sadly diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, as Jobs preferred to use alternative remedies. He passed away in 2011, and according to Steve Jobs' biographer, Walter Isaacson, the Apple founder, quote, eventually came to regret the decision he had made years earlier to reject potentially life-saving surgery in favor of alternative treatments like acupuncture, dietary supplements, and juices. Though he ultimately embraced the surgery and sought out cutting-edge experimental methods, they were not enough to save him. End quote. Maybe Apple executives saw the outcome in Belle they wished they had seen in Steve Jobs. Whatever it was, Apple executives took a liking to Belle, with senior staff at Apple referring to Belle in their emails as Darling One and Lovely, and sometimes even signing off their emails with XOXO. 3 senior staff members from Apple were also mentioned in the thank you section of Belle's book, which was offered to her through Penguin Random House and set to come out the same year as the Apple Watch. In September of 2014, Belle began working with Apple to make the Whole Pantries app a pre-installed default inclusion in the Apple Watch for its 2015 launch. Belle was living large, but it wasn't enough. After all, she was magically cured, had a successful business, more money than she'd ever had, and was being courted by the biggest tech company in the world and had gained over 300,000 followers by 2014. But she wanted more attention, more sympathy, and so in 2014, a few months before Apple's event, Belle staged a 40-minute seizure at her 4-year-old son's birthday party. As the birthday guests were getting ready to leave, Belle suddenly slumped against a wall and slid down it to cushion her fall. Everyone turned their attention to Belle, who was now on the floor. Belle made such a scene that even the adults were crying. As one frantic guest pulled out her phone to call the emergency services, Belle suddenly became coherent enough to say she didn't want to go to the hospital and that it would pass. Once everyone was made aware not to call an ambulance or take her to a doctor, Belle went back into her pretend seizing, lasting a total of 40 minutes. The terrifying episode was witnessed not just by the adults, but by Belle's son and all the children at the birthday party. One of Belle's former friends who had been at the party told the author of the book, The Woman Who Fooled the World, that, quote, "It looked real. I believed it was real, and I was mortified. I cried driving all the way home. I actually don't know how I got home." That night, Belle posted on Facebook about the experience, calling it a painful collapse, and said, quote, "I have seizures often as a result of my brain cancer, but nothing ever this long or intense. Extremely grateful for my friends and family who were there to support me through this, and my team who are looking for new answers." But a one and done wasn't enough for Belle, and 2 weeks after her son's birthday party, she announced to the world that her cancer had spread. Belle's online post read, quote, "With frustration and ache in my heart, it hurts me to find space tonight to let you all know with love and strength that I have been diagnosed with a 3rd and 4th cancer. One is secondary and the other is primary. I have cancer in my blood, spleen, brain, uterus, and liver. I am hurting." But Belle wasn't hurting, and she wasn't done scheming.
It was 5 years ago I was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and we launched the Whole Pantry a year ago, and that evolution came through my community. They kept reaching out to me saying, you know, we're also feeling in a space of an uninspired space, or a space without direction, and how are we going to, you know, live the whole life without resources or without something pulling that all together. So that was my responsibility. You know, it took 7 months worth of development, and I put everything that I knew along my journey with cancer, nutrition and wellness, and put it on the most accessible device possible, the iPhone. And it's just onwards and upwards from there. With the Apple Watch, it's even more accessible, and it's an even more personal experience and more personal journey to living the whole life and adopting the support and the resources that we put there for you. My developer and I had come over here 4 weeks ago now. We've been working every day on our Apple Watch app, and it's been hard. It's been hard because of the jet lag. It's been hard being a startup and dropped in amongst the Twitters and the BMWs of the world, but we're ecstatic with what we've come out with. And just the emotion that's in the room at the moment is very powerful. We didn't really know how it was going to be received, but of course, Apple have redefined the behavior and user experience around wearables. So what we've done is with our companion app is we've added a meal planning section. With the meal planning section, you choose the recipes you want to make for a dinner party or for the week ahead, and that pushes all over to the Apple Watch. With the Apple Watch, you can have a hands-free shopping experience in the grocery store, and there's no awkwardness around that now with the constantly pulling your phone out, putting it back away, dropping it on the floor. It makes a lot of sense. We've been working here in total secrecy for the last 3-4 weeks, and it's been a whirlwind, and that's also, we're really emotional and proud about it. And I have a feeling now that Australia is waking up, that they're spotting it. The text messages and the Instagram comments and the tweets are coming in saying, did we just spot your icon on the new Apple Watch? And you did, and it's exciting.
To the outside world, Belle looked like a fighter, and she had the support of her friends and adoring followers, and she continued to gain recognition for the work she was doing. All along, she was promoting how the whole pantry was donating a portion of every app purchase to charity, saying she was helping raise funds for maternal health care in developing nations, funding for schools in Africa, and cancer research. Belle even held events specifically to fundraise for some of these charities, and by 2014, she told the world she had donated $300,000 to charity. But behind the scenes, Belle donated little more than 3% of that $300,000 to charity. Instead, she bought designer outfits, got her hair and nails done, held photo shoots for her Instagram feed, and traveled the world. A former employee of Belle's reported, quote, Belle would post on social media that she's been at a doctor's appointment all day, but really she was just going to the dentist. She got her veneers done, but she would make it sound like it was for a cancer-related illness. During the same time Belle was having her rise to fame, another wellness blogger was making waves in the health community. Her name was Jessica, and Belle said Jessica was one of her biggest inspirations. Jessica attracted thousands of followers on social media as she shunned conventional medical treatment for a rare cancer she was diagnosed with and attempted to cure through Gerson therapy. Gerson therapy is an unproven treatment which involves daily coffee enemas, large loads of dietary supplements, and following a strict organic vegetarian diet. With Gerson therapy, one is supposed to drink 20 pounds or 9 kilos of crushed fruit and vegetables. This amounts to 1 glass of juice hourly, 13 times a day. This alternative dietary therapy was created by the German physician Max Gerson in 1928. Dr. Max believed the treatment cleanses the body, boosts the immune system, and rids it of unnecessary toxins. But cancer institutes around the world have rejected Gerson therapy and deemed it as ineffective and dangerous. Jessica, also an Australian like Belle, was diagnosed with cancer in 2008 when she was only 22 years old. Jessica was diagnosed with a rare soft tissue cancer known as epithelioid sarcoma, which affects young adults and most often first develops in the hand or arm. Jessica wrote in a blog that her doctors told her epithelioid sarcoma doesn't respond to chemotherapy or radiation, and that Jessica's only chance of prolonging her survival would be to have her arm amputated at the shoulder. Jessica decided against this and tried chemotherapy anyway. When that didn't work, doctors again suggested amputation. Jessica refused her doctor's advice and instead turned to Gerson therapy. Jessica then regularly blogged about her health and yoga routine, held retreats for her followers, and also got a book deal. While Belle's brand was the whole pantry, Jessica's brand was the wellness warrior. In a 2013 interview, Jessica stated, quote, I am a firm believer that our bodies are not designed to consume chemicals, so I respect my body by feeding it what it wants and needs, lots and lots of organic plants. But by age 30, Jessica's cancer had spread. She attempted 6 weeks of radiation, but sadly, it was too late and Jessica passed away at the age of 30. And then Belle crashed Jessica's funeral. Belle and Jessica met only once, and Jessica's friends would later report that after their meeting, Jessica said something was off about Belle Gibson. This didn't come out, of course, until Belle made a scene at Jessica's wake and funeral in 2015, which prompted journalists to speak with Jessica's friends and family. It was revealed that Belle turned up to Jessica's private wake where she cried hysterically. During the wake, she reportedly asked Jessica's fiancé for a private chat and then sobbed on his shoulder while telling him her heart was breaking and that she was petrified of dying the way his partner had. Belle then proceeded to cry the loudest at Jessica's funeral. One funeral attendee reported, quote, "It was like she was making a point of being seen and heard, like she was trying to prove that she was more devastated than everybody else who was there." It was estimated that Belle's book and app had made in excess of $1 million in sales by early 2015, and it looked like Belle had plans to expand the brand, with the whole life domain being registered and an advert placed at the end of 2014 looking for an IT specialist. December also saw Belle being given an article in Elle Australia titled "The Most Inspiring Woman You've Met This Year." Belle was still in the clear with her Apple collaboration on the horizon, and she continued to build a bigger following across her various social media platforms. Until in March of 2015, when her fairy tale built on lies would come crashing down. Belle had previously made claims about $300,000 of her profits from the whole pantry book and app sales being donated to charity. This claim caught the eye of Consumer Affairs Victoria, and they began investigating. In March of 2015, an Australian publication exposed that Belle's donation claims were false. The journalist who broke the story gave Belle a heads up about the soon-to-be-published article and asked Belle to respond to their emails so she could set the record straight, but Belle ignored them and instead made a few hasty donations to the charities she claimed she had already helped. These journalists found this out when they got in touch with the charity organizations themselves. In total, Belle Gibson donated only $10,000 of the $300,000 charity money. Belle's charity fraud opened the floodgates for journalists to start looking into all of Belle's claims, and for the first time, people started to really look at Belle's story, and suddenly things weren't adding up. On March 11th of 2015, an Australian publication posted an article titled "Friends Raise Doubts Over Aussie Entrepreneur Belle Gibson's Cancer Claims." An alleged friend of Belle's said, quote, "She admitted her diagnosis was questionable. I asked her when she got her diagnosis. She said she didn't know. I asked her who gave her the diagnosis. She said Dr. Phil. I asked if Dr. Phil had a last name. She said she didn't know because he disappeared. I asked her where she saw Dr. Phil, and she said he came and picked her up from her house." Belle Gibson had betrayed the public's trust, and she knew it, as it was around this time that multiple posts regarding Belle's health and cancer scares had been deleted from the whole pantry's social media accounts, as well as Belle's personal accounts. Also deleted were posts from Belle's Instagram that referenced her charitable donations. But this all raised one very important question. How had she been able to keep this going for so long? How had no one ever asked her for actual proof of her claims? Penguin Random House, Apple, and Australia's media were now facing criticism from people rightfully asking, how did none of you do your due diligence in substantiating Belle's claims? Responding to a March 2015 media inquiry, Apple said it wasn't going to remove the whole pantry app from its store, as its concern lay only with the functionality of the app. But as outrage continued to grow, Apple silently removed Belle's app from being included in the Apple Watch launch, and eventually quietly deleted the entire app from the Apple Store. At the time of this recording, Apple has never made a public statement regarding Belle Gibson and the promotion and removal of the whole pantry. Belle's book publisher initially claimed to not have confirmed Belle's cancer claims, as the book was focused primarily on recipes. But then a video was leaked that showed Penguin Random House Publishing executives coaching Belle with media training before the release of the book. Media training where they specifically told Belle that she needed to get her story straight about her medical treatments. As pressure mounted, Penguin removed the whole pantry from sale. The reason given was a lack of response from Belle regarding their inquiries about the latest media accusation. Penguin ended up paying a $30,000 fine to the Victoria Consumer Law Fund for failing to validate the content in the book. Belle attempted to make amends. She worked with a PR company and held an interview with the Australian Women's Weekly, but it would be a damning article that confirmed what many already speculated. The interviewer asked Belle outright if she has or ever has had cancer. Belle replied, quote, No, none of it's true. Without giving an apology, Belle went on to talk about her difficult childhood, reiterating that at age 5 she became her mother and brother's caretaker and housekeeper. But Belle's mother, Natalie, happened to read this interview and she wasn't pleased. Natalie told the press, quote, "She's got to look inside her own soul. The only way she is going to get forgiveness is to stop playing the victim card and spend the next few years doing nothing but charity work for cancer victims." In response to Belle's claims about her childhood, Natalie said, quote, "What a lot of rubbish. Belle never cared for me, her brother is not autistic, and she has barely done a minute's housework in her life. I've practically worked myself into an early grave to give that girl everything she wanted in life. Every time she moved house, I paid for it. Whenever she needed something for her son, Ollie, I paid for it. If she wanted a new computer, I paid for it. Phone bills, clothes, beauty treatments, you name it. And this is how she repays me. She's just a girl who always had ideas above her station. She was never happy with what she had and embarrassed by her family. Her tastes just became more and more expensive, and she was living beyond her means, and she was addicted to her computer. She used to fall asleep with it, always on Facebook, always online. But that world is not real. It's not healthy. Natalie did confirm that she had multiple sclerosis, and when interviewed, Belle's estranged brother said he had no idea why Belle claimed he had autism. He didn't. Belle's interview in Women's Weekly did not go over well with many people. One comment on social media about the article from a man named Anthony read, quote, "My beautiful wife died a couple years ago from colon cancer. Initially, the specialist advised she should survive the cancer if she immediately underwent a series of chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Instead of listening to her doctors, she allowed herself to be conned by a series of alternative practitioners. 4 years later, she was dead, despite having paid these charlatans over $250,000. I tried my utmost to make her see sense, but it was like she was in a trance. These people had convinced her that cancer was a myth created by the pharmaceutical companies to sell cancer drugs. All she had to do to get better was to read their books and or buy their potions. My beautiful wife died from a highly survivable cancer, aged just 49. Her 4-year-old son is unable to grow up with his mummy, all because of con merchants such as this. If guilty, I hope this woman gets the punishment and humiliation she deserves and stripped of any profit she has made on the back of the suffering of others." A court of law found Belle's claims to be misleading and deceptive. Belle Gibson was handed a $410,000 fine in September of 2017 for the false claims she had made about her charitable donations. But Belle claimed she couldn't afford to pay the fine. She stated that she was $170,000 in debt and only had $5,000 to her name. In April of 2019, with the fine still unpaid, authorities were looking at charging her with contempt of court. By September of that year, Belle still hadn't paid her fine and was pleading poverty, but something wasn't adding up. A financial analysis done by the courts found that from 2017 to 2019, Belle spent $91,000 and took 2 vacations, one to Africa and one to Bali. The analysis showed $13,000 in that period was splurged on clothes, makeup, and accessories. When quizzed by the court about how she got this money and who was depositing different amounts in her account, Belle said she didn't know. When the courts basically said, "You seriously don't know who's putting thousands of dollars in your account?" Belle replied, quote, "I'd have to speculate, and I'm not willing to do that," end quote. In January of 2020, the Sheriff's Office of Victoria raided Belle's home and seized items to recoup the unpaid fine that was now sitting at over $500,000. Belle's home was raided again in 2021 with the same objective.
The fight to make cancer conwoman Belle Gibson pay her $500,000 fine for her deception has taken a new turn. Neighbours say Miss Gibson was left in tears today when authorities raided her home.
Officers from the Sheriff's Department descended on Belle Gibson's rental home in a secret early morning raid. It's the second time in 15 months a seizure and sale warrant has been carried out on the Northcote property. The infamous wellness blogger faked having brain cancer and duped thousands into believing she'd cured it with natural remedies. In 2017, Gibson was found guilty of misleading and deceptive conduct and fined $410,000. Add ongoing court costs and interest, and authorities are now chasing the con woman for more than $500,000. Items seized from today's raid will be sold to recoup the money, following the mother of one's claims she's broke and unable to pay. It's not known if anything valuable was taken from the property this morning, but Consumer Affairs has vowed to continue to pursue Gibson for payment until the substantial debt is paid. The latest chapter in an intriguing tale of fraud and deceit. Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
The day after Belle's home was first raided, a video from fall of 2019 began circulating. Belle was at it again. As shown in this video, Belle can be seen wearing a headscarf and attempting to speak with a different accent. In this interview, she discussed Ethiopia's political situation, says her name is Subantu, and references Ethiopia as, quote, back home.
Maqaa kee Subantu. Today we met in Melbourne, Australia. Our diaspora community, Oromo community of Australia, met to discuss the current situation of Ethiopia, specifically Oromia, but focusing on Jawar Mohammed and Abiy Ahmed and the current political situation. Our community, specifically the Jasa of Melbourne, discussed the current situation back home. We covered the history of Abiy's position in Ethiopia and his approach and response in the last 24 hours. And we came forward with a solution after that discussion, which concluded in community events to raise money for Oromia, for the Kiro, for our communities, and specifically for the security of Jawar Mohammed and our Oromo leaders at this time. We also discussed looking forward to the future and doing a forsha, a community grouping, to raise large amounts of money for the ongoing support of Oromia and Jawar Mohammed.
Belle went on to say she had been adopted by the Ethiopian community while volunteering in Melbourne, but this was quickly shut down by the president of the Australian Oromo Community Association, who said that Belle wasn't a registered volunteer and, quote, is not a community member, and she's also not working with the community, end quote. He elaborated further by saying he had only seen Belle 2 or 3 times at events and expressed that he wants her to stop claiming to be part of the community. At the time of this recording, Belle remains a free woman. It's unknown how much, if any, of her fine has been paid to the Australian courts. The saddest part of all, however, is the possibility that someone somewhere refused to follow their doctor's orders for cancer treatment, and some may have even paid the ultimate price for that decision because of one woman's thirst for fame and success and her willingness to do anything to get it. This has been the story of Belle Gibson, the con woman who took advantage of some of the most vulnerable among us. If you are a fan of learning about scams, cults, and cautionary tales, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. My name is Josie, and I hope you come back for the next video.